Welcome back to another live. Today I've got YouTube here in front of me and I've got Instagram on my phone. Usually there's a lot of questions from Instagram, but I'm also going to be taking questions from YouTube. And if you want to have a better experience, go onto my YouTube channel and go and watch the live from there. The lighting and the audio will be better than what you're seeing on Instagram. So for my Instagram followers, thanks for coming through. It's another Sunday live. I'm here to answer your questions and have a good time. But if you want to have a better experience, go onto my YouTube channel. The link is in my bio and watch the live from there. It's going to be recorded and stored on my YouTube channel. It's not going to be recorded or stored on Instagram. Going forward, I'm going to be doing lives using Instagram, but it won't be recorded. It'll be recorded and posted onto my YouTube channel. So today I'm going to follow the same flow as I follow every single time, which is to start with an update of where I am in my portfolio and what kind of challenges I've experienced this week. And then I'll be talking about one financial aspect called tax, because that's what I'm struggling with right now. So we'll talk about the different taxes applicable in your property business, and then I will field questions. So start posting them in the comments. I'm here to answer as much as I can. So let's start off with a quick update on my portfolio and the challenges that I'm having. So as you may know, if you've been watching my lives for a bit, I'm currently waiting on a few properties to transfer. So a couple have in the meantime, in the between time. We've got some renovations to do. A lot of the properties that I buy are distressed because that's where you get discounts. So you tend to find people with property problems and then you try and solve them for a profit, right? So a couple of the buildings have quite a lot of work. The one building is a building of 9 units. We've renovated 4 of the units and we filled those units. The remaining 5 still need work. The one is in such bad condition that it's probably going to cost us about 80 grand to fix. The roof has collapsed in on itself. I'll definitely be doing a video on that because I know how much you guys love construction and renovation videos. And then we've got another one in Alberton that is transferring next week. That one's also going to need a lot of work. It's 8 flats, 4 shops. But the work there is not necessarily renovations, it's more fixing the council bills, because there the residential tenants are being charged commercial rates, which is an absolute killer for both us and the tenants. And then probably the biggest challenge, I've got 2 big challenges that I'm currently facing. The one is a tax problem, which I'll talk about just now. The second is staying on top of everything. When you're an entrepreneur, you go through many different stages, and each stage is posed with different challenges. When I first started my business, my biggest challenge was how do I get to the end of the month and pay all my bills? And if you're a start out investor or start out entrepreneur and you're in your first, second, maybe third year of doing this, you'll probably resonate with that it's hard to get regular revenue, it's hard to get stability, it's hard to cover all your costs and expenses month on month. The challenge I have now is that I'm in a more of a growing stage, right? So I'm getting growing pains, and one of those pains is staying on top of maintenance. When I had 1 or 2 investments, it was pretty easy to stay on top of maintenance because you get the quote here, you approve it, 2 weeks later you follow up, you check that the work was done properly, and boom, you can let it go. But when you're managing a bigger portfolio, that's what I'm struggling with now. I've got like 2 renovations on that one, I've got 2 renovations there, I've renovated that, have I approved that cost? And staying on top of what work has been done, what approvals have been given, that's what I'm struggling with now. But you know what, that's what entrepreneurship is we get problems and we figure out solutions, and if we figure out those solutions well enough, we get paid for it. So my strategy is first to build a process to try and systemize how renovation quotes will be given and approvals, and maybe use a Trello board or some sort of project management board. And once I've got a system that I'm comfortable with, is to hire a personal assistant, somebody that can stay on top of it, and then we just do weekly calls to figure out where we are on the status of everything. So that's sort of where my thinking is going. That's the biggest challenge that I'm facing. The second biggest challenge that I'm facing is that of a tax problem. So why do I have a tax problem? So obviously when you make money, you pay tax, right? That's how it works. And the way that I've structured my partnership program is there's a tax problem there. Okay, so let me break it down. When I do a partnership with private equity, I register a new PTY, a brand new PTY, and this PTY will buy the property and be the rightful owner of the property. Okay, and how it works is this PTY is then funded by private equity. So I will fund through my entity, I'll buy a share in the company, and so will multiple other people. So let's say, to keep the numbers simple, we need 100 Rand to do a deal. So 100 shares will be allocated. If I give 20 Rand, I get 20% shares. So what you put in, you get out. That's how I've structured it. Now what I also do is I add that I get 10% equity for putting the deal together. That's my fee. But I don't get paid that fee, right? I just get a share in this PTY of 10 Rand. But in SARS's eyes, SARS says, hey, you made 10%, you made 10 Rand today. I want to tax you on that. Now, on 10 Rand, that's not crazy, you know, that's 27 Rand that you pay towards tax. But if you're doing 100,000 Rand, 1 million Rand, 10 million Rand worth of these kind of deals, you get stuck. So in the last 6 months, I've probably put together deals of about 20 million. So if we use that 10% of 20 million, that means I've made 2 million. And I put it in quotations because I didn't make that money. That money didn't come into my bank account. But in SARS's eyes, it did. And now I'm liable to pay tax on that, which is, let's just work out, 2 million times 27%, which is income tax of the company. That's 540,000 Rand of tax that I have to now pay, even though I didn't have any revenue coming into my company. Does that make sense? Now, later on, I'm going to benefit because I'm paying the tax now, but I'm only going to make the profits in years to come because my loan will eventually be paid off by the revenue that this company is generating. But now I have to pay tax. So what are the taxes that are applicable in the property space? The number one is income tax. You pay income tax on your personal income or on your company income. In terms of personal tax, you know, it's on a scaling rate, so the more you earn, the more you get taxed. To refer to SARS's website to get updated numbers. I'm not a tax consultant, so I'm not going to try and act like I know all the numbers backwards. In a company, the current income tax rate is 27% of net profit. So if you make 100 Rand in net profit, you pay 27 Rand to SARS. You've also got transfer duty. So when you buy a property and it transfers from person A to person B, there is duties payable. So SARS will want a piece of that transaction. You can figure out what those costs are. There's multiple calculators online. Go check out myapp.property if you want to have a calculator. The other tax is capital gains tax. So if I buy a property for 1 million Rand and 2 years later I sell it for 2 million Rand, SARS sees that I've made a gain of 1 million Rand and they will charge tax on that. Depending on the structure, tax will be payable. VAT is probably the fourth tax. That's not really applicable in residential. Well, it's not applicable in residential properties, but it is applicable in commercial, retail, and industrial. Usually, you can just pass that cost onto your tenant. Those are the main taxes that you have to be aware. Oh, dividends tax. So if your company now makes profit and you want to take that profit out of your company, you can either pay your loan back, you can pay yourself a salary, which means you defer the tax into your personal name, or you can pay dividends post income tax, but then you still have dividends tax. And I think the effective rate of getting money out of your company via paying income tax and then dividends tax is probably like 40-45%. So it's not super attractive. But those are the taxes you have to be aware of. Income tax is the money you make, you pay tax on that. Capital gains is the value of growth in your property, you pay tax on that. When you do transfer from A to B, you pay tax on that. Dividends tax, VAT or VAT when you're doing commercial or retail. Inheritance tax is also payable if you pass away and want to pass on your wealth to your kids and you don't have the right structure, i.e. you don't have a trust in place. Okay. Let's see, I've got some questions here on YouTube. I am in Ermelo. I am having a bond on my house, but I want to go into rental, but not sure how to go about it. Kindly assist. Okay, so, I mean, in order to grow a property business, you need access to good debt. Right? Debt is just money that comes with terms and conditions. It's how you utilize that debt, whether it's good or bad. So good debt is when you use the bank's money to buy an income generating asset and your tenants can cover the rent, right? So you buy a 1 million Rand property, but it's making 15,000 in rental income. So you can cover your bond, rates and taxes, insurance, levies, etc., and you're left with a little bit of profit. That's good debt. Bad debt is you go and buy luxury lifestyle items that you can't afford, a car, expensive holiday clothes, and then you end up financing the finance costs as opposed to outsourcing it to your tenant. Now, if you do the good debt option where you're making a profit, you're adding affordability to each purchase. Each time you buy a property, you're increasing your affordability, meaning you can access more finance from the bank, meaning you can scale. So to my friend in Ermelo, if you've got a bond on your house and that's negative cash flow and it's draining your affordability, you should consider selling it or renting it out. But if you do not have affordability and you can't access more debt from the bank, you can't scale. You could use private finance if you wanted to, but accessing private finance is hard because investors are difficult. They want to see case studies and track record. They're not just going to give you money. So you have to use your own money and the bank's money to build a small portfolio and show that you know how to handle it, and then you can expand from there. Let's see if I've got any questions here on my Instagram. Is it possible to pay 0% tax? 100%. You just don't make money then. So if you don't have a profitable business or if you're not generating revenue, you don't have to pay tax. I think this was a mind shift that I had probably about 10 years ago when I was speaking to a mentor, and he, I used to think, oh, I don't want to pay tax. I don't want to pay tax. I want to avoid tax because tax is expensive. But he said to me, if you don't want to pay tax, then don't make money. But if you're paying tax, it means you're making money. It means you've got a profitable business. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, I'm not saying you should pay more tax than you should. Hire a good accountant, pay them their fees, and make sure that you're mitigating as much tax responsibility as possible legally and in the right way. But, if you're making money, you can pay tax. So one of the things you could do is you could filter in expenses into your company. Pay your phone contract, your petrol, stuff that's in the to help you, because the way you can deduct taxes from your net profit is if it's in the production of income. So as an example, I have a property business. I have to phone agents all the time. I have to drive to viewings all the time. So I can put my phone and I can put my petrol into my company because those are helping me in the production of income. I can't go and put my groceries. I can't go and put the nice dinner I had with my lady on Friday night. I can't put that through my PTY because it's not in the production of income. A client meeting is in production of income. When I meet with investors and I treat them to a lunch, I can put that through my company. And as you increase your expenses, you're decreasing your net profit and you get taxed on a smaller amount, because in a company you get taxed on net profit. So you can filter in expenses and slowly reduce your tax. But you have to change your mindset. Tax is not a bad thing. Paying too much tax is bad, but paying tax just means you have a profitable business, and that's a good thing. Is house flipping worth it, and what are the tax implications here in South Africa? House flipping is a great strategy. It's all about buying the property at the right price, right? In terms of your tax obligations, your big one is going to be capital gains. So you buy a property for R1 million, you sell it for 2 million, you've made R1 million worth of gain. SARS is going to tax you on that. I don't know offhand what the rate is because I don't do flipping, so I don't know what capital gains tax is. Actually, let me just quickly check on SARS' website. Capital gains. If you don't know SARS' website, it's sars.gov.za. So, capital gains tax for individuals is 18%, for companies is 21.6%, and for trusts is 36%. So in my example, if you're making R1 million in a capital gain from flipping in a PTY, you're going to be charged 22% roughly tax. So that's 220,000 Rand will be your tax obligation on that R1 million worth of net profit. That's going to be the big one. My big tax expense is I pay capital gains when I do those, when I structure my deals, right? Because that 10% sourcing fee for the shareholding that I get, SARS sees that as a capital gain, even though I haven't gotten that money. Remember, that's the trick. That's why when you see guys like Elon Musk or these super wealthy people, most people think they've got billions in the bank. They don't. Elon Musk probably has hundreds of millions of dollars in the bank that's easily accessible, but 90% of his wealth is tied up in his Tesla shares and his shares in his other companies, SpaceX, etc. It's the same with me. I don't really have a big bank account or a lot of money sitting there. It doesn't make sense to have money sitting in a bank account either, right? So then you're just earning the interest that the bank account can provide. You have to be putting your money into investments, but my wealth sits in properties and will be paid out to me in years to come, which is why I'm sitting now with this tax problem that is very irritating. But yes, flipping can work as long as you buy at the right price. That's the key. Would you allow rental arbitrage in your properties, and if not, why? Do you have any advice how to jump into rental arbitrage? So for those who don't know what rental arbitrage is, that's when you rent from a landlord and you sublet to somebody else. So a good example would be in student housing. You go and rent a 5-bedroom house from a landlord for 10,000 Rand, and then you rent out each room to students, and maybe you make 20,000 Rand, and the difference between what you're renting out versus what you're paying the current landlord is your profit. Great strategy to get into if you don't have a lot of upfront capital, because you don't need to really spend that much cash, and you can start generating a recurring income. So it's a very nice strategy. The problem is, where do you find these deals? You know, if I'm the owner of a property in a student town and I see that you're making 20 grand but you're only paying me 10, eventually I'll kick you out and I'll do it myself. That's the challenge with arbitrage. Is conceptually it's a good idea. Just how do you find it? So yes, it's a good strategy, but it's going to take a long time for you to find a good deal. Okay, Dudette from YouTube. If I pay the business loan back and the loan is from me, do I pay tax? Okay, so you've got, in your personal capacity, you've got, let's say 100,000, and you loan it into your company. Now there is a loan, so your company has a liability. They owe you 100,000, and you in your personal name have an asset because you are owed 100,000. Now when you pay that 100,000 Rand back from company to your personal name, there's no tax implications. You're just repaying the loan. But if there's interest involved, that's where tax comes in. So let's say you loan money into your PTY and you say my PTY needs to pay me 10% interest on this loan. That interest portion, when it's paid back into your personal name, will be an interest income and will be exposed to income tax. But if you don't have interest in play, then there is no tax payable. I'm not sure if you're able to do a loan without accruing interest. I think that SARS has closed that loophole and forces you to have interest. Otherwise, people would just build massive loan accounts and never pay tax. Aiden, would love to partner with you. However, I think I need to consult with a bond originator and a tax consultant to get my affairs in order. Do you have anyone you can recommend? Unfortunately, Aiden, I don't recommend any of my Power Team members on social media. That is restricted to my paying clients and to my coaching students. But you are welcome to do an intro call with me. You can check the link on my website, book a 30-minute call, and let me see where I can assist you. Okay, let's see what other questions we have here. I hate tax. So if I pay the business loan back and the loan is from me, do I pay tax? Okay, that's the same question here. Is this the same person? You're watching from 2 channels. Is there such a thing as DSCR loan in South Africa? Of course there is. There's not many financial institutions that provide that. But for those of you who don't know, a DSCR loan is a debt service coverage ratio loan. And basically the bank doesn't look at your affordability per se. They look at the deal that you're looking to structure, and then they base their affordability on that. It's a very good way to do commercial investments, but it's very expensive. The banks are charging 15% interest. What advice would you give a student trying to get into real estate? Andile, that's a great question, and one I get quite often. If you're a young person looking to get into real estate or investing in general, whether it's stocks, crypto, whatever, gold, the commodities, the number one investment that you must make is into this thing right here, is into your education. Now you're blessed. You live in a generation where all of this information is at your fingertips. I mean, you've got incredible content creators and influencers on social media, on YouTube, on Instagram, that are showing you how to do this. So educate yourself, spend time on YouTube, buy a few Udemy courses, invest in your knowledge for a year or 2, and then, so you need 4 things to invest in property. Number 1, you need knowledge, education. We've spoken about that. YouTube, Udemy, book courses. There's so much knowledge online available at your fingertips. Number 2, you need a stable form of income. So you need to be employed or contracted, or you need some reliable income stream to come in. You can't invest without money. That's what investing is to put money into something. So as long as you've got some sort of reliable income stream, then number 3 is you need a budget. So you're making money now, you're getting an income stream. How much of that income is being allocated towards investments and towards savings? You need a 6-month savings account, 6 months worth of OPEX saved up before you start investing. So get a job, put in a budget, save up 6 months worth of emergency funds, then you start allocating towards investments. Okay, so we've spoken about knowledge. You need reliable income, you need seed capital, you need liquid cash to buy property. You need about 100 grand to get started. And that 100 grand is for deposit, transfer fees, renovations. For a small apartment in CBD, you can get away with 100,000 as buy-in. And then number 4, you need a decent credit score. If you want to get leverage from the bank or debt from the bank, you need to make sure you have a good credit history. Stuart, I have 5 million in the account. How do I start? Stuart, you contact me. Let me help you allocate that 5 million in the most appropriate way. Jokes aside, 5 million can buy you a substantial amount of units in my investment area. I would say 5 million can probably buy you 20 flats odd. Each flat making, let's say, 1,000 rand in cash flow. That's a 20 grand monthly income, recurring income that you could probably make off that portfolio. Oh, wait. No, sorry, because we're talking about cash now. So let's say 20 units, each one bringing in 5,000 of revenue. You could be making 100,000 rand per month in gross revenue with a 5 million rand buy-in, as an example. Is it better to buy a house in cash than fix it and refinance it? Please explain to me how that works. I heard someone say they got money from that refinance property. Okay, so again, I get this question all the time, and it's really simple. Refinancing is just financing. So option 1 is I go and buy a property, but I get finance from day one. So I sign the offer to purchase, I go to the bond originator, the bank says, okay, we'll give you 70% loan to value, and I put 30% down, I buy the property. That's option 1. Option 2 is I buy the property cash. 6 months later, I go to the bank and I say, listen, I've got this property, give me finance. The bank says, okay, we'll give you 70%, they give you the money. Finance and refinance, same thing. It's just refinance means you've already bought the asset cash, you're just getting the money out later on. So to your question, and it's a great strategy, it's the BRRRR strategy, buy, renovate, refinance, rent out. It's something I do all the time. I'll buy a distressed property, a distressed block of flats at a massive discount. I'll fix it up, renovate it, fill it up with good quality tenants. I go back to the bank, I refinance, I pull my money out, I then push it into the next deal. So that strategy is fantastic, yes. And that's how refinance works. It's like getting finance, except you're doing it post acquisition of the asset instead of pre. Does one have to have the phone contract under the company for me to be able to put it as a company expense, or it can still be on your personal name? I mean, it can still be in your personal name. It's just a bit more admin now. You have to every month allocate that expense to your business. Look, like I said, I'm not an accountant or a specialist. I would just say go and speak to an accountant, get their advice, and outsource. You shouldn't be. This is the biggest thing that I see with entrepreneurs and startups, is that they wanna control everything. And I was like this also in the beginning. The first 5 to 7 years of my business, I wanted to do everything, save cost, control my business. But then I'm stuck working in my business instead of working on my business. And working on my business allows me to scale. Working in my business means I'm exchanging time for money. So if you're a small investor, it's fine to try and do things yourself. But as soon as you want to start scaling, outsource the admin and the operations of your business so that you can grow and scale. Is it bad to pay extra on a loan for a rental unit? That's a good question. I don't think it's a bad idea. I think what's key is to have an access facility available. So what access facility means is that any money you put into that bond extra can be accessed at a later stage. So you kind of see it like a bank account, a savings account. All right, so you put any disposable income into your home loan, which is accruing a decent amount of interest because home loans are quite expensive. And when you come across another investment opportunity that is good and lucrative and justifies taking that money out and paying the interest on it, then you take it out. In terms of paying off property as quick as possible, I think that's a good idea if you're looking to reduce risk and you're looking to slow down acquisitions. You don't want to scale. So if I'm 60 or 50, let's say, and I'm looking to scale down and to reduce my risk exposure, I'll pay off my debt. I'll look at, but if you want to scale requires acquiring, and acquiring requires debt. So, yeah. If I want to change suretyship and directors in a PTY, do I need to apply for a new bond, and who to talk to about the process? You want to change suretyship. Okay, well, if you want to change directors in a PTY, you have to speak to CIPC because they manage all the registration documentation for companies. In terms of changing suretyship, I'm sure that the bank won't be happy about that, and it will probably be applying for a new loan or signing a new contract that states who the suretyship will be, and hopefully that suretyship or the person who's giving surety has got a strong enough financial position that the bank won't mind. I would probably chat to a bond originator. Please explain these types of buying properties. Group company, LLC, personal name, or family trust. Which one to go with and why? Okay, so first of all, company, LLC is an American term. We have PTY, so I would just buy in a PTY. Personal name doesn't make sense unless you're buying your primary residence, because there is a nice tax benefit for primary residence. Otherwise, personal name is the worst structure you can buy in, because your liability sits all with you, and the tax in South Africa is not attractive for personal name. In terms of a family trust, you want to keep your family trust debt free. So you want to put in your paid off assets into a family trust so that there's no risk. And then you want to have a business trust, which can have risk and can have debt. So the way I've structured it, and again, I'm not an expert, this is something that you need to go and consult with an advisor, but I have a holding trust. That trust holds the shares in my PTY, and my PTY owns, able to operate within the tax-friendly environment of a PTY. History, and you need seed capital. If I have 5 million in the bank account, can't take 50 million as a loan from the bank so I can get 200 properties? Of course you can. Stuart, if you've got 5 million of cash, just give me a second. Okay, it's back. Just pausing because my Wi-Fi is not great. Okay, sorry about that break in connection. So to Stuart's question, if I have 5 million rand cash, can I not just get debt of 50 million and acquire more? Of course you can. It depends what the bank offers you. Usually banks are offering between 60 and 70% for commercial loans and 90 to 100% for home loans. So it depends what strategy you're trying to do. But with your size of money that you're looking to play with, I would say you're going commercial. So your 5 million can be your deposit, your transfer fees, etc., and you'll probably be able to raise 25 to 30 million from the bank. Parents are retired and want to buy properties with me. Any rules or tips? Tips for doing business with family. I've done that. Got the T-shirt. Paid the piper. I wouldn't recommend family business, but if you are, guaranteed to do it, get everything in writing. Get an independent lawyer and attorney to write everything, because with family there's this inherent trust and assumption that things won't go bad. I wouldn't recommend it massively. Okay, let's see. Please mentor me. I'm happy to mentor anyone, but my time does come at a fee. You're welcome to find out more on my website. Okay, I've caught up with all the questions on Instagram. Okay, let's see here. What is the biggest mistake you ever made in property? Yo, that's a big question. Mistakes is probably a better word. I've got a cool video on YouTube. It's called 10 Horror Stories from 10 Years of Investing, and I speak a lot about my mistakes. I don't know, again, as an entrepreneur, you go through different stages, right? So in the beginning parts of your business, you go through much different challenges and issues than you do like now, right? So at different stages, I made different mistakes. Maybe let me list some of my mistakes. So my mistakes in the beginning of my journey was focusing too much on my ego. I was trying so hard to be seen as this entrepreneur who was just living off my property income. I had a chip on my shoulder. I wanted to show and prove to people that I wasn't employed I was an entrepreneur grafting on my own. That was really, really important for me. And that's why I left corporate, right? Because I wanted to show people I'm doing this. But that had a massive negative effect on my ability to scale, because a job is good. It's good to have a recurring income stream because you can go to the bank and raise money. You can get lots of debt when you have a stable form of income. And when COVID hit, my business went way under and I was forced back into corporate. So when I was about 25, 26, I left corporate, tried to do this thing full time. Ego was full on. I was trying to prove to people that I was all this cool stuff. And then at 30, so I did my own business. I was like full on entrepreneur for about 4 or 5 years. Then I went back into corporate because of COVID. And that's been one of the best things for my business, because now I've got a steady form of income and I don't have to touch my property income, allowing me to reinvest and scale. So that was my biggest mistake, is in the beginning trying to impress people I didn't even like. Then as I started doing more deals, the big mistake was taking shortcuts and trying to do due diligence quickly. I guess it was partly that I didn't know any better, but I wouldn't request proofs. I wouldn't challenge the estate agent. I wouldn't make sure about things. The estate agent would tell me, yeah, water is like 2,000 per month, and I would just assume that that's true. I don't do that anymore. That was a big mistake. What's my biggest mistake now? I think this year particularly, I probably tried to scale too quickly. That's why I've got this tax issue now. Trying to do too many deals too quickly instead of slowing, or I don't know. You want to challenge yourself as well. And I've got a plan for my tax issue, so I guess it's not the worst thing in the world. No questions, just want to say thanks for your content. It helped me start my property journey and I'm able to make a good return on my rental. That's awesome. What happened with the UK properties you've had or had? Yeah, so a while back I sold those, and I never actually owned the UK properties. It's called a lease option. So it's kind of like arbitrage here in South Africa, where you rent from a landlord and then sublet. There was a contract in place that gave me that right for like 20 years, but I ended up selling that contract to somebody else because the return wasn't there. That's the problem of the whole thing about property is it's debt. That's what property is, a debt-based business. The more debt you can achieve at a cheaper rate, the better and more you can scale. That's really what it is. Now, I can't get competitive debt in the UK because I'm not earning in the UK. I've got no credit history in the UK. The UK doesn't care about me and doesn't want to give me debt at a competitive rate. So I can't buy property there until I'm living and earning there. But I can do that in South Africa, which is why I continue to invest in property in South Africa. But I invest all of my stocks outside of South Africa as a hedge because I can't have all my eggs in this basket. South Africa's got risk, right? I mean, it's got a high risk profile. Where can I get physical copy of your book? My books are in exclusive books. So you can get a hard copy on Takealot, or you can take a walk to a bookstore. I love going to bookstores. It's one of my favorite things to do. Otherwise, you can get an e-copy as well via Amazon. What's the name of the book? I've got 2 books. The one is called Financial Freedom Through Property. It's a very specific technical book about property as a business. And then I have another one called Millionaire in the Making, which talks about more of the mindset of being an entrepreneur. And it talks about property, but it also talks about stock investing as well as business. So I usually recommend that you read the Millionaire in the Making first, because that gives you a nice base and foundation of investing and being an entrepreneur, and then go into Financial Freedom Through Property if you want to understand the nuts and bolts of the property business. Is housing insurance necessary for rented out property? Insurance is a grudge purchase. You only want insurance when you need it. So do you have to have insurance? Well, yeah, if you're going to go through the bank, if you want to get debt from the bank's going to request that you get insurance. Like, you have to get building insurance. But you don't need insurance. You don't have to. You're not forced to take insurance. It's a good decision, though, to get insurance. How do you deal with hijacked properties? Unfortunately, I don't talk about my eviction strategy. It's just because what I do is is not necessarily the legal route that most people are aware of. I don't really buy hijack properties either. I buy properties that are distressed and run down and maybe have tenants that are in arrears, but a hijack building is not something that I touch. What's your take on the Cape Town market? Completely overpriced and not a good area for rental yield. So because I'm all about rental yield, that's my strategy and my focus, Cape Town does not feature on my radar in terms of a good investment market. But from a capital gains perspective, there's no better area than Cape Town. And the reason for that is because you've got this immigration trend and you've got international investors. So there's just a lot of demand for properties in Cape Town pushing the price up. So it's a good market if you want to buy, hold, and let your property appreciate. There is a rising trend of extortion gangs making landlords pay protection fee. Have you had any experience? No, not in my experience. I'm mostly in the south and the east end of Johannesburg, in areas that are considered very dodgy and very risky, and I haven't had any of that stuff. I've never had a hijack building. I've had one really, really bad eviction. The rest of my evictions have been pretty seamless. Where do you source building material for cheap? Tiles are expensive. I don't know. My contractor does that. I don't know. And the Durban market, offense there. I think KZN has got a lot of potential. The reason I don't invest in KZN is because I don't have any link to it, right? I didn't grow up there, I don't have family there, and I don't have a team there. I grew up in Joburg, which is why I started there. I currently live in Cape Town, which, I still buy a bit of property here, but I have no link to KZN. But I think it's a great market. The rental market is good. You've got decent yield, you've got decent demand, you've got student housing areas. So I think Durban is good. I would probably rank, like Gauteng is definitely the best for my strategy, being rental yield, and then I'd say KZN is probably your second best province for rental yield. Maybe Bloemfontein as well. Bloemfontein is Free State. Yeah. Cape Town is probably on the bottom of that list for rental yield, but on the top of that list for capital gains. Best investments for a 24-year-old with a 20k salary: put it into a index fund, put it into the stock market, put it into the S&P 5 fund, and forget about it. So I have a question. I want to be a real estate agent. Where do I start? You'll need to contact a real estate agent. I'm not an agent, so I don't know what is required. I know you need to get certified. You need to go to the Property Practitioners something PPRA is what they're called. Property Practitioners Regulatory Authority, and follow the instructions there. Okay. Hey, I hope you're well. I wanted to know, how hard would it be to buy a profitable property from a property fund like a mall? Well, if you're talking about a REIT, a real estate investment trust, where you buy a share of a property-based company, your yield is minimal. So your ability to make big profits is not really there. But your risk profile is also quite low. Hi, what do you offer in your mentorship exactly? My mentorship is a practical application of the theory that I've given for free. So if you go and look on YouTube, I've got probably, 400 plus videos teaching you how the property game is played. So most of the theory, I'd say like 70% of what is required and what you need to know is for free on YouTube. The remaining 30% I kind of keep secret for my paying clients. But my mentorship is all about practical application. So I give you homework, I tell you where to go, what to do. Once you complete the homework, you come back and I give you the next step. And essentially, if you follow all the steps and you do all the homework, you should leave the mentorship with at least one acquisition. But yeah, I teach you area research, deal analysis, legal, setting up your right structure, signing offer to purchase with suspensive conditions, doing due diligence, negotiation, transfer, management, how to access finance, scaling your business. Yeah. What are your thoughts on repossessed houses? Yeah, I don't mind repossessed. I don't mind going to auction. Obviously, you need to know what you're doing and you have to have the right due diligence in place, because auction does come with a heightened risk, but your potential of getting a good discount is there. How does a newly employed person build a good credit record in preparation for property investing? Great question. So my advice is to get a credit card, but use it like a debit card. So get a credit card, but use it like a debit card. So as an example, you're going to pay for groceries, right? That was going to be a cost you were in any way going to pay. Pay it with your credit card. Petrol. Anything that you're going to normally pay for anyway, use your credit card, and at the end of the month, pay your credit card back. So take the money in your debit card, put it into your credit card so that you're not exposed to any bad interest. But what you're showing the bank with every transaction that you use your credit card is you're showing the bank, I know how to work with debt. So I've been doing this for, 10 plus years, and my credit score is fantastic. So just using your credit card but then paying it off at the end of the month so that you don't get exposed to interest is the best way to build your contract. No, I literally want to buy a mall from a trust. Okay, but then you have to do your analysis. What are you buying the mall for? What's the revenue that it can generate? And is there sorry, I thought the connection broke there. You can buy a mall from a trust, and you have to run the numbers and buy it at the right price for it to be profitable. Please scroll up, you missed my question. You're going to have to ask the question again. Sorry, man. Is it advisable? Because I want to scale, so I want to use as much of the bank's money as possible, but I also want to buy distressed buildings, and you can only buy those cash, but then once they're fixed up and operating properly, I can refinance and pull out more money. So I would say if you're looking to scale, buying with cash is not the right idea. Okay, sure. This has been a nice live. I've had more people on YouTube than normal. Usually I get all my traction here, all my questions on Instagram, but people on YouTube have started taking action, which is awesome. But I think I'm going to cut it there. Thank you very much for joining this live stream. It's been a plum-pleasing pleasure and a privilege. If you haven't already subscribed or followed my channel, please go click it. It's a quick button. I distribute weekly content, and I like to share my journey along the way. If you do want to get in contact with me to understand what services I offer, the link is in my bio, or you can click the link in the comments below. Essentially, I have a coaching program. This is where I sit through the steps of buying your first or next investment property. I have a partnership program. This is where we share the resources, we pull our money together, and we go buy assets. I also have some online content on Udemy and YouTube, so go check that stuff out. Otherwise, what's my last bit of sage words of advice? Okay, going back to the problem that I'm experiencing now, which is this tax issue, is one of the best things you can do for your financial future is to get emotionally intelligent, which I think is something that we should be teaching kids at school, is emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence is simple. It's just understanding your emotions, regulating yourself, because actions are a result of your thinking and your belief systems. Now, if you've got a self-limiting belief like rich people are evil, your action will be to never really try and become rich because you believe that rich people are evil and you don't want to be evil. That's just a quick example. So if you don't fix your beliefs and your thinking, your action is not going to be seamless, and you're going to be fighting yourself along the way. The belief that I had at the beginning of this year is that I need to become financially free tomorrow. I need to do this now. I need to buy 1 million properties right now. And that's put me in a tricky situation where now I've made these acquisitions and I have this tax liability. So focus on emotional intelligence, build this asset. This is your way to financial freedom more than any other asset will be. Build your knowledge base, develop yourself, do some self-development. And I reckon in 5 years' time you won't recognize yourself.